Let's listen to this man. He got some good news for you. Hey, everybody, gather near. The doctor's in the house, so lend him your ear. The things he can say might even make your day. He might even help your pain go away. The doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. I'm sure he can tell you just what to do. The doctor is in the house. Doctor is in the
Oh, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, the doctor is in the house. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to episode 641. Today's topic will be the Alzheimer's deception and why everything you've been told is wrong. And we'll talk about a fraudulent study that started a lot of this and wasted a lot of money. So thank you for tuning in, and I do welcome you with an attitude of gratitude. It is truly heartwarming and humbling to see the growth of Dr. Ron, unfiltered, uncensored. Before we go further, I want to, again, thank everybody and talk to you about my Substack page, Substack page that's on the internet. And you can reach it by typing in docronradio.substack.com, and where I've been posting articles now for the past couple months on our health and what we can do about it. I also post some videos and some podcasts, and I think it's interesting. And you know what? You can subscribe, and it's free. And I did write an article a month or so ago, and it was all about staying healthy in a senior setting. That generated a lot of comments, and actually one center is actually getting rid of canola oil, partly because of it was brought to their attention about the dangers of canola oil and how it is rapeseed oil that's been processed with hexane and deodorants and so forth. And then we went on to talk about, some people do everything right. They follow everything. And still, they are not feeling quite well. And so when they saw the article about how the dining room in senior centers can be bad, we expanded that to include other areas that they would have to be careful of. And that resulted in a docuseries, which we will release next week, called, in effect, "What If You're Doing Everything Right, But It's Still Enough?" And it'll be just for 3 parts, and we'll cover the paradox of a healthy decline. Why you're doing everything right, you're still sick, and we'll talk about the actual drivers of disease long before it has a name. The term now is we'll call it upstream before it has a name, before medicine focuses on it and gives it a code. And then we'll talk about why the system cannot fix it. And for that episode, we will have the incredible Professor Brian Peskin with us. So if you want to take a part of that, just go over to substack.com, Doc Ron Radio, and sign up for a free subscription. I guess that's all the promotions I have to do for today. So let's get on to today's topic. And, I started this program because of my 60 years of experience, and we don't dance around the truth, and we look into it. And today I'm going to be talking about one of the biggest scandals in modern medicine, and frankly, one of the biggest failures, and that's called Alzheimer's disease. For decades, we've been told it's all about amyloid plaques. Billions, literally, ladies and gentlemen, billions with a B of dollars have been poured into drugs targeting beta amyloid. And what do you have to show for it? We don't even have a drug that works for it. A graveyard of failed clinical trials, and the sad part of families still watching their loved ones disappear before their eyes. And there's a kicker here. And it was a landmark study in 2006 in Nature that supercharged the amyloid hypothesis. But they altered and they manipulated and they doctored the images. That was from Minnesota. It was retracted after an investigation found fabricated data. Think about that. 2006. An entire generation of Alzheimer's research may have been chasing the wrong target based on fraudulent science. So let's go off script a little bit today and talk about what the establishment doesn't want to discuss, some of the real causes of Alzheimer's disease, because when you follow the money, when you look at what actually degrades the brain, there's a little bit of a different picture that emerges. I guess I should have a drum roll. Well, let's start with the elephant in the room, neuroinflammation. This is the common thread running through almost every risk factor we're going to discuss today. Your brain on fire, chronic, low-grade inflammation that destroys neurons, nerves, tangles up proteins called tau, T-A-U, and yes, probably contributes to amyloid accumulation also. But here's the thing that inflammation comes first, not the amyloid. Inflammation comes first. The plaques and the tangles, we're thinking they might be the brain's desperate response to injury, not the cause of it. The brain trying to control that inflammation with amyloid and protein. But inflammation comes first. So what's causing the inflammation? Well, let's dive into that a little bit. First up, environmental toxins. I've talked about this for years. We're living in a chemical soup, folks. Pesticides, heavy metals, industrial pollutants. Your brain is being assaulted daily and nobody's connecting the dots. Aluminum. It accumulates in the brain. We see it in the neurons of Alzheimer's patients. Is it the cause? Is it causal? Well, the establishment says no conclusive evidence. But when you're bathing your brain in a known neurotoxin for 70 years, you think possibly there could be consequences. And I'm not even going to get into all of the thimerosal that's in vaccines that gets into your body directly through a shot that you request. Aluminum. And then there's glyphosate. Glyphosate is Roundup, the most widely used herbicide on the planet. It's in your food, it's in your water, and therefore in your body. And studies show it disrupts the gut microbiome, the beneficial bacteria in your gut where 85% or so of your immune system resides. It crosses the blood-brain barrier and contributes to neurological disease. But Monsanto, that's Bayer, assures us it's perfectly safe. I have a friend in Pennsylvania who's finding glyphosate in almost every organ of the body. And when the detoxification schedule is followed, a lot of his patients are recovering beautifully. Glyphosate. And vegetarians, even if you buy farm-raised, supposedly clean vegetables, a lot of it is sprayed with Roundup to dry it out. It's a desiccant. So it's ubiquitous. And then beside aluminum and glyphosate, we have lead, we have mercury, we have manganese, and air pollution. That fine particulate matter called PM2.5. These particles, ladies and gentlemen, are so small they travel from your lungs directly into your bloodstream and cross the blood-brain barrier into your brain. Are you living near a highway? Near a heavily traveled road? Well, you have an elevated dementia risk. That's not a conspiracy. It's not woo-woo. That's epidemiology. And we're supposed to believe that beta amyloid is the only thing to be worried about. Well, they should all sell. They should. If you believe that, you would be in line to buy a bridge. Well, let's talk about something even more controversial. The reason I paused because I had a specialist on my program a few years back, and she said every time you put a cell phone up to your ear, you open the gateway of the blood-brain barrier, and you allow mercury into your brain and other substances. Well, let's talk about these electromagnetic fields, EMFs. Now, before you turn me off, and thinking I've gone like a tinfoil hat on my head, hear me out. We have gone virtually from no electromagnetic radiation in human history to being bathed in it 24/7. Wi-Fi routers, cell phones pressed against our heads, smart meters, 5G towers. The World Health Organization classified radio frequency electromagnetic fields as, quote, possibly carcinogenic, unquote. But, the powers that be said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And don't worry about what it's doing to our brains. Some researchers, the ones who are not funded by the telecom companies, have found that chronic EMF exposure increases oxidative stress. It disrupts that really important blood-brain barrier and interferes with cellular calcium channels in the neurons. So it has a neurological effect. Is this causing Alzheimer's? We don't know for sure. But when you're running a global experiment on 8 billion people with no long-term safety data, maybe a little caution is warranted. And maybe you won't think that I'm so crazy as I keep yelling every day, turn that Wi-Fi router off at night. Protect yourself. Don't keep your cell phone in the bedroom with you. There's no exact answer at this point in time, but with the studies all showing no data also, and there's no effective treatment, well, why not just take something out? Take something away that we've never had in human experience, all this electromagnetic fields, because our bodies run on current. You have an EKG that you see the result of it, right? It's a current that shows up on that EKG, that EEG. So we have toxins and we have EMF. Nobody's talking about it. Not in the mainstream media anyway. Not in the mainstream. There's another thing nobody's talking about, and that's infections. It gets interesting in this area because there's actually solid science that's been ignored. Herpes simplex virus number 1. Those cold sores? They have found that herpes in the brains of Alzheimer's patients, not just a correlation, the virus is in the amyloid plaques. Some researchers believe the plaques form as an antimicrobial defense, the brain trying to trap the pathogens. Ruth Izaki has been publishing on this for 30 years, and she has been systematically ignored. Herpes type 1 virus. Then there's the Porphyromonas gingivalis. That's a bacteria that causes gum disease. Guess what? It has been found in the brains of Alzheimer's patients. Its toxic proteins, gingipains, correlate with tau proteins and cognitive decline. A drug company actually developed a gingipain inhibitor, and it showed promise in the early trials before the company went under. Is that a coincidence? Is that a conspiracy theory? Maybe. Or maybe there's no money in telling people to floss. Okay? How about chronic viral infections like the Epstein-Barr, even COVID-19? They all can trigger neuroinflammation. We know infections can cause encephalitis, brain fog, long-term cognitive changes. We were seeing that with long COVID, but suggesting that they might contribute to Alzheimer's? Well, you say that, you're on the fringe. You're woo-woo. You're a conspiracy theorist. How about traumatic brain injuries? Remember Dr. Bennett Amalu and his concussion encephalopathy that he found? I think the football player was from the Steelers named Wallace. Traumatic brain injuries. We just can't ignore it anymore because the evidence is overwhelming. Boxers, football players, our military veterans, we see the pattern. Concussions, especially repeated ones, dramatically increase dementia risk. We call it CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. When it happens to athletes, that's what we call it. And that's what Dr. Bennett Amalu found in Pittsburgh. But the pathology overlaps significantly with Alzheimer's disease. What the heck's going on here? The initial trauma disrupts neurons. It triggers, here we go again, inflammation. It damages blood vessels. It impairs the brain's waste clearing system. And how many times have I been talking about the glymphatic system of the brain that works at night where your brain shrinks down to force all those toxins out of your body? That's why sleep is so important. So that injury, that head trauma, never fully heals. It smolders, and decades later, what do you have? Dementia. But you know what should be making you afraid? What should terrify you? You don't need to be a linebacker to get a traumatic brain injury. Car accidents, falls, domestic violence, even hitting a soccer ball repeatedly. These minor head traumas accumulate and your brain remembers. The clock is ticking. Sleep disruptions. This is huge. And almost no one's talking about it in the Alzheimer's conversation. You've heard Dr. Ron talk about restorative sleep for years, and I may have been the first one to have a podcast on the glymphatic the glymphatic system that drains the brain. Your brain has a waste clearance system, and that is called what I just said, the glymphatic system. Think of it as the brain's overnight janitorial crew. It's most active during deep sleep. This is when your brain flushes out metabolic waste. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That includes beta amyloid. So what happens when you don't sleep well? You have sleep apnea, insomnia, and the shift work, which is awful. Chronic sleep deprivation. Well, when you have any of this, your brain can't clean up. The garbage accumulates. The toxins build up. Inflammation increases. It keeps trying to build walls around all this junk. Studies show people with chronic sleep problems have higher rates of cognitive decline. Treat the sleep apnea, the cognitive decline slows. But instead of addressing sleep as primary intervention, well, what do? We wait until someone has dementia. Then we throw useless amyloid antibodies at them. See, then we have a code, and we have something to bill for. Sleep is free. It's natural. But you know what? There's no patent on telling someone to fix their sleep hygiene. There's no blockbuster drug, so it gets ignored. You're getting the picture now, right? How about diet? The Western diet is a neurotoxic disaster. Ultra-processed foods, seed oils. That'll be part of the docuseries. Refined sugars, chemical additives. This is what you call brain poison. Ultra-processed foods, seed oils, refined sugars, and chemical additives. We know diet influences Alzheimer's risk. The Mediterranean diet, which is rich in olive oil, fish, and vegetables, is protective. Why? Because it is anti-inflammatory. It has the anti-inflammatory omega acids, the polyphenols, nutrients that support mitochondrial function and reduce oxidative stress. And again, I don't want to blow my own whistle, but I've been talking about mitochondrial function, and that mitochondrial function and metabolic disorders is at the basis of most diseases. If your mitochondria are not happy and you're not a mitochondriac, you're going to be sick. But the standard American diet, SAD, so true. It's pro-inflammatory. It's high in omega-6 adulterated fatty acids. It has a lot of advanced glycation end products, compounds that damage the blood vessels and neurons. We're creating insulin resistance, not just in the body, but we're creating it in the brain itself. And some researchers are calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. I could go more into this subject, but that'll be another podcast about adulterated fatty acids and insulin resistance. And even non-diabetics probably should get an insulin, a glucose tolerance test and an insulin test. See where they stand, get a baseline. Your gut microbiome, like the gut-brain axis, your gut microbiome is connected to your brain through this axis, the gut-brain axis. So when you destroy the beneficial bacteria in this microbiome with processed foods, antibiotics, and pesticides, you increase systemic inflammation. That inflammation reaches your brain. How many times have I mentioned inflammation in this podcast? Nutritional deficiencies matter a lot. B vitamins, vitamin D, magnesium, they're essential for brain health. And most people are deficient, especially in magnesium. But again, there's no money in telling people to go out and eat real food or to take some basic supplements. Why have all the treatments that have been out there failed? Because we're barking up the wrong tree, and we've been doing that for 30 years. The amyloid hypothesis became the dogma. Billions in research funding, entire careers, pharmaceutical pipelines. So they were all built on this single idea. And when you have that much invested, it's really hard to admit you're wrong, huh? The drugs that finally got approved, I can't even pronounce them. They clear amyloid from the brain. Measurable, significant amyloid reduction. You would say, well, that's really great, isn't it? And the clinical benefit, I'm going to ask you, what is it? Marginal at best. Tiny improvements in cognitive tests that most patients and families can't even perceive. Meanwhile, they carry risks of brain swelling and bleeding. The drugs themselves. That should have been the final nail in the coffin for amyloid-only hypothesis. The false study and the drugs that don't work and can cause brain swelling and bleeding, but instead is being spun as a success. Why? Because the pharma companies need to recoup their investment, those billions, and the FDA needs to justify their approvals. Here's what I think is really happening. It's not one disease, but it is the final common pathway of brain injury from multiple sources: environmental toxins, infections, head trauma, vascular disease, metabolic dysfunction, that includes the mitochondria, chronic inflammation. In my opinion, any combination of these damages the brain over decades. It doesn't happen overnight. This happens upstream before you get a diagnosis and a code. A billing code, I should say, not code of dying, a billing code. The plaques and tangles, they're tombstones, not murderers. The plaques and the tangles, they're tombstones, not murderers. Markers of a brain that's been under assault for years, and the brain has been trying to protect itself, and the brain is failing at it. That's why targeting amyloid alone does not work. You're treating a symptom, not the cause. It's like mopping the floor while the sink is still overflowing. So, what's the solution? Well, I have to be honest with you, it's not sexy. It's not going to be a single pill, but it has to be a comprehensive prevention and early intervention program. Like what? Well, reduce your toxic exposure, clean up your environment, filter your water. Oh, we're going to have to do a podcast on that. There's cadmium, radioactive materials, antidepressants. They filter your water. Eat as organic as you can afford. Support your body's detoxification system. Sweat. That means sauna too. Sweat. Stay hydrated, but with filtered water or pure coconut water. Cruciferous vegetables and antioxidants. And if you have gum disease, treat those infections. Treat that inflammation. Dental health matters. The short distance between your teeth and your brain. Dental health matters. Address chronic infections, whether it be athlete's feet or chronic skin conditions, whatever. Address those. Consider anti-inflammatory interventions, but on a natural basis. Protect your head. Wear helmets. Avoid contact sports, especially if you've already had 1 or 2 concussions. Please prioritize your sleep. Treat sleep apnea if you have it. Don't get a device. Get whatever you need so you have a good night's sleep. Maintain good sleep hygiene and value rest. Eat a brain-healthy diet. Real food, not processed food, not ultra-processed food. Eat an anti-inflammatory diet that is nutrient-dense. Exercise, both physical and cognitive. Well, I want to tell you that you've heard of the saying, use it or lose it. Well, that also applies to your brain. And when I'm talking about exercise, as you get older, you need more resistance training than you do cardiovascular training. As you get older, you're less likely to have to run to catch something. You're more likely to have to open a jar or open a window or, you're going to need muscle strength. Manage metabolic health, control blood sugar, maintain a healthy weight, and address insulin resistance so that, you can do that with blood markers. Your healthcare provider should be able to order those tests. So this is a system-based problem, and this is what we call system-based medicine, looking at the whole system, not just at one organ. It's more of an engineering approach. This is treating the whole person, not just that one little protein. This is actually addressing root causes instead of throwing billions of dollars of Band-Aids at the symptoms. What's so sad, in my opinion, the tragedy of it all, is that we knew much of this decades ago. Sorry to say, there's no profit in prevention. There's no patent on lifestyle medicine. Where's the money? Follow the money. It's in drugs, in diagnosing, especially drugs that people have to take for years. There's no money to be made in drugs that cure anything. The pharmaceutical companies would like to have you for life. The retraction of the fraudulent amyloid study should have been a wake-up call. Instead, it was barely a ripple. Did any of you hear it? Read it? That it happened. The machine just keeps grinding. The trials keep failing and families keep suffering. And just to be sure, I'm not saying that amyloid is irrelevant. I'm just saying it's not the whole story and probably not even the main story. And until we are willing to look at the bigger picture, to acknowledge that Alzheimer's is a complex, multifactorial disease that requires comprehensive solutions, we're going to keep failing. The science is there. The data is there. What's missing is the courage to challenge the established narrative and the will to pursue treatments that don't generate billions in profit. Well, that was hard to do this episode because of it, the devastation that this disease causes among families and to the individual themselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Ron, unfiltered, uncensored. Please sign up for my Substack page, drronradio.substack.com. Become a subscriber. It's free. You'll have access to information about this story, about the docuseries that's upcoming, and with the episode I'm working on now about what you can do to stay healthy without spending a lot of money, like anti-aging strength training. We'll talk about sleep again, staying engaged, a Mediterranean diet. I will probably have an endocrinologist from Spain on with me to do that one. We'll talk about stress. Well, we'll talk about walking and social connections and protein and alcohol and gut health. But if you sign up for the Substack page, you'll have access to all of that. So until the next time, think for yourself, question everything, and most important, take care of that brain, because nobody else is going to do it for you. God bless. Be well. We'll see you next time.
Hey everybody, Dr. Ron's finished for today. I hope you got some good wisdom for what the man had to say. If it's all about good health, he's the man you got to see. He has a lot more answers for you. So tune in next week when the doctor is in the house. Or when the doctor is in the house. And let the doctor know what's bothering you. When the doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. I'm sure he can tell you just what to do. The doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. When the doctor is in